Breeze through a quick episode today, not a long time. I just want to minister to you for a few minutes, talking about the thing that really impassions me most. It's about the volunteer engagement inside of your church. Probably one of the number one things that I'm seeing as a really problematic approach to ministry right now is how you're engaging your congregation and how your people are accessing the deeper parts of your church, and it's becoming quite a I'm going to call it a pandemic. It's a pandemic inside the church world today, where people are coming to sit, but they're not being invited to be a part of. And I wonder if it's if it's a thing that's happening inside of your context as well. You know, the way that we frame this, or that we view this, is that, like, age old statistic that 80% of the people, or 80% of the work, is done by 20% of the people. Like, you've heard that before, right? 20% of the people do 80% of the work. You realize today that number is more like 95 and 5. So 5% of the people are doing 95% of the work. And honestly, that 5% is mostly staff, some key volunteers, and then you probably have some, you have some others here and there, but 95% of the work is done by 5% of your people. And it's a problem. We've got to figure out what the imbalance is, what the cause of this is, and then reposition this as a system to be able to engage your people at a more intense level. In my fully engaged church course program thing that I guide people through, I talk about this crucial element, that discipleship is more about action than information. And yet more of our churches are designed around structures that say, come and listen, instead of come and be involved, or come and be engaged, or engage with me, something along those lines. Let me ask you something kind of uncomfortable today. If 20% of your church stopped serving this Sunday, what would it look like? Would everything collapse? Would it continue? Would you struggle? Would you have to shut areas down? Here's the reality. Most churches under 30, that's what they're facing. A small core of people is literally carrying everything. And honestly, here's the thing. It's not because 80% of your church is lazy. Now, there are a huge number of people in your church that are indifferent. They just don't care. And we're dealing with that as we go along here. There's a way to engage those people. There's also kind of the understanding that there's going to be some people that just do nothing, and we have to allow that to be okay. But the reality is this. It's the point is this. The issue is that your engagement pathway is really unclear. Let me say that again. The reason this is part of your church is because the pathway to engagement is not clearly defined. And if you would spell out, if you would take some time to clarify what is the engagement pathway, you would see a lot of improvement here. Let me go through a couple myths. Let me see. I got a couple myths that I want to talk through. Here's the myth. The myth is that people don't serve because of lack of commitment. No, that's not the issue here. The issue comes down to, like, the proverb that says, where there is no vision, the people perish. Where there is no vision, the organization is going to perish in this level. The truth is that people struggle with serving, or you have a issue with struggling to get high quality people involved because they lack clarity. They lack the understanding of, what do I do now? Why do I stay with this? Where's the life change involved with it? So when someone visits your church, what's the process? What happens? Like, what's the thing that you have that that prevents them from falling through the cracks? You know what I mean? Like, I know how it is, man. You get so excited when that person comes and you see them and you're like, oh, wow, you're a guest today? Man, let me take you down the process. And that thing is spelled out. Like, what happens when we recognize them? You're new here, raise your hand, whatever it is. Some churches do that. You shouldn't do that. I really don't. I frown on that. Okay. Like, don't embarrass your guests when they first show up. Give them an opportunity to just kind of kick the tires on your church. I love that language. Kick the tires on your ministry and not be embarrassed by anything that's going on. But what you do next is absolutely crucial. What is the next step that takes place in the life cycle of a guest becoming engaged? How do they know what that is? Is it clear? Is it undeniable? Is there room for them to kind of fall through at that place? How quickly are they placed in that? Is there a defined on ramp? And then even more than that, is it clearly defined what happens after that? Because I'll be honest with you, I spent a lot of time in churches today and a lot of time working with pastors and talking with pastors and helping them navigate through the tensions and the complexities of some of these things. And that first part is pretty clear. You guys are really kind of on it with when it comes to like, what happens with a guest and how do we get them connected? What you're not very good at is what happens after that. And that's where you see the biggest fall off in people kind of vanishing. And they're like, man, they were here. If you think back to it, you're like, when was the last time I saw that person, that family? And you're like, I can't even remember. It's just like they were gone. So what happened? So most churches have some kind of a sign up sheet or a class or a vague, let us know if you're interested. I tell you what, my friend, that's not a system. That's a hope. And there needs to be a change to this. So the second thing I want to talk to you about is a structural problem. There's some common gaps that take place right here. There's really no defined progression as far as like guests to attenders to members to servers. It's assumed, but it's not designed. And so we feel like excited when we get someone new inside the context, whether it's a new attender, we're excited about that. We're excited about a new member. We're excited about that. We're excited about someone new stepping into service. I'll be honest with you. I want to encourage you to tone your excitement down, because excitement or when these things happen, not excitement, when these things happen, it should be because your system made it predictable that it was going to take place. I hope that makes sense to you. Your system made it predictable that it was going to take place. So the excitement should be expectation. Oh, I expected that you were going to do this. I've just been waiting for you, right? That's what a healthy system can provide for you and for your ministry. There's the second thing that happens in a gap is that there's no personal invitation system integrated. People are asked generally, but not specifically. Hands down, the fundamental, most glaring void I see in churches today, this one right here. There is stage announcement, but there's no specific announcement. What would it take for you? Like, I teach this in my Fully Engaged Church course. I'm going to give you some nuggets today. This is powerful. Golden right here. You write this down. You deploy this right now, okay? One of the things I teach is called two things. Everyone builds the team. And man, I'm drawing a blank right now on what the language is I use on this piece. But essentially what it is it effectively equips everyone who is on any team in your church to be what's known as a host. And so they're deployed about 15 to 20 minutes before the service starts to go out into your congregation as people are getting there, as they're getting settled in. There's those minutes where they have gotten a coffee, they have checked their kids into kids ministry. They are sitting there with your, elevator background music playing, and they're just talking to themselves. They're talking with their family, they're talking with their kids, they're scrolling on their phone. That is the most fundamental moment for you to sweep in, Get to know them, let them know that they are known, that they are valued, that they have a story, something's going on, that they are seen. And this is the place that you use your strategic ask, right? And so you're with these people and you're getting to know them and you ask them this question: have you been a part of our First Steps class, of our belongings class, of our whatever your class is called? Have you been to that yet? This is it. This is the triggering moment, and instantly, that's the progressive thing. I teach this in the fully engaged church, that the number one thing, the most important thing, the clearest pathway is everyone needs to go through the First Steps class, whatever that thing is called, because it structures or it populates your funnel by which they can actually become known and they can become part of the system and they can become part of the engaged process. When you integrate a personal invitation system, people suddenly become seen. I remember teaching this to my team once, and I told them, it just struck me one day, and I was doing this video training in my convertible as I'm driving down the road one day. I was like, man, I got to teach this right now. And so like I'm teaching this on video on my phone while I'm driving. It was a really bad idea. But I remember saying this: stop talking to safe people on Sunday. And the idea was, and it's not safe people, dangerous people. The reality is that we always congregate towards familiarity. And I saw it. And I was like, if I can disturb that comfortability and disrupt that flow a little bit and get these people talking with people they've never met before, the uncomfortable ones, I can now engage people in a conversation that have never been engaged before, and they can then become in that group or in a group or whatever. And it all starts with getting out of the circles that we constantly flow in. So there's no defined progression. There's no personal invitation system. And then secondly, or thirdly, there is no fast placement. Energy, I want you to hear this clearly. Energy dies in delay. Energy dies in delay. Don't make this take forever. Shouldn't be much more than a couple weeks between now and the next time that thing takes place. Momentum dies in ambiguity. Clear this thing up. And so here's the fix. I've already given you some really, really golden nuggets today of what you can utilize, but give them something usable. Introduce a 3-step activation flow. What is this? An immediate follow-up. How about the day you get a connection card, they get a response that day? I mean, they're already emotionalized based on what they've experienced with you. How about you just appoint someone who's going to take care of this that day while the church is happening? They're getting that set up. So that's taking place. I remember a church we went to recently, and we filled out 3 connection cards on the same Sunday. They kept giving them to us, and I was like, fine, there's something else. I'll fill this out again. And it still took a long time for us to get connected. I was like, what is this? How about a personal conversation about serving? How about you just activate that today? Personal conversation about serving. How about placement within a few Sundays? Placement into something. People want depth. They want to be involved in something deeper, richer, more profound. People engage. Here's the thing, church, pastor. People engage when the ask is clear, when the role is defined, and when the time expectation is limited. But here's the problem. Most churches overcomplicate this issue. If only 20% of your church is serving, that's not a people problem. It's a pathway problem. And you probably haven't sought to figure out how to resolve it yet. The fully engaged church, we build this pathway. So serving becomes the expectation, not the exception. So that it becomes the element of like, wow, okay, yeah, another person, not the overwhelming element of celebration. It's just the thing that happens. Pastor, here's the thing. Here's the reality. Here's the ending moment. If you don't fix this imbalance, your core will burn out. And understand you are at the center of the core. If you clarify the pathway, engagement multiplies. And so does everything else. So listen, I hope this blesses you. I hope it just kind of hits you right where you're at. and encourages you to be able to move forward. I want you to know this, Pastor. You're not lost on time. You're not beyond the limits of this. There's a way to figure this out. And I promise you, it can happen. It can work just for you. So I pray you're well blessed and encouraged. I think of you. I pray for you consistently. If there's something I can do to specifically pray for you, you let me know. You got my email address. You've got ways to connect with me. I think there's even some links in there for some free discovery calls or a free, conversation that we can have together. You guys know I'm a coach. This is what I do for business. This is what I do for work. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm not going to deny it. It's who I am. It's how I serve. It's what I do. So if it's time for you, if it's ready for you to have a conversation, let's talk. We'll talk soon, man. Have a great day.